You are angry because you are attempting to engage yourself in a system that at its core is antithetical to you. Hyperindependence is a trauma response irrespective of your gender. We have not learned how to be honest about what it is that we need, because we believe that if we are honest about it, the women in my life will rather watch me down this horse than to get off of it.
Okay, y'all, listen, we got a very special guest, a guest that has been here multiple times. This is the only guest that I've had on the platform 3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Yes, sir.
So it's real. It's real. It's that real, brother.
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, I want y'all to know that this is going to be a classic. I don't even gotta. All you gotta do is watch the last 2 episodes with this guest to know that this is going to be a classic. The energy in the room is amazing right now. It is immaculate. I'm a big energy guy, if you guys don't know. So it's immaculate. It's always immaculate with this brother. And I want y'all to know, if somebody has sent you this episode, they love you, they care about you, they want you to win, and they want you to heal, especially if you're a black man listening to this. If you are a black woman listening to this, we hope you're an ally. We hope you send it to other black men, and we hope that you learn something from it, because there is going to be a lot of gems dropped. I would say grab a notebook, but nowadays with AI, you could just throw the transcript into AI and just get your notes that way. So just do that, or do whatever you want to do to grab your notes, your gems, whatever you need to, because this is going to be a classic, okay? This is not pre-recorded. This is not something I'm recording after the episode, and I already know what we talked about, and I know it's good. I'm telling you this before the episode because I know the episode is going to be that good, just based off of the content that we talk about and the content that I know we're going to get into. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce my brother, Odi. Odi, you have been talking before we even started, and I already know you are heating up. you know, before they go Super Saiyan on there, like literally, I know you're heating up, my brother. So listen, tell the people who you are, what you do, before we get tapped into all the things that we were just talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, I appreciate that introduction, Kizzy. You know, it's always love when we slide. You feel me? Good people, great people, God's people. It's your boy, once again, Professor Odi. I am a therapist. I am a mental health and wellness expert. I am a mental health and wellness coach. I am a content creator. I am a influencer. I don't really like that term, but that's what other people call me. And I'm also somebody who is very invested in the wellness and mental health of black men, black women, black children, black people. So that's what I do. That's who I am. And that's where we going.
Listen, brother. I need you to go back to what you were saying before we started the episode. Mm-hmm. Do you remember where you were at?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were talking about the idea of why it is that black men are so angry, right? And in a number of different ways, this conversation is very interesting because there are a multitude of elements that exist within this conversation. Because I think what happens a lot is that we want to reduce, we want to minimize, and we want to simplify so that we'll be able to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, I think that a number of black men, first and foremost, are tired. They are tired because the way in which we talk about black men's mental health is black men are a problem to be fixed and not a people to be heard.
What does that mean?
In the context of ideology, in the context of, conversation, in the context of research, whenever we talk about studies, whenever we talk about statistics, whenever we talk about just how it is that data, how it is that conversations, how these things get to us, it is through a process, whether it be observational, whether it be qualitative, whether it be quantitative. The history by which black men, black people overall, but black men especially, have been contextualized in the country is from a deficit model. And in academics, a deficit model is a model by which you are identifying this population based upon what it is that they don't have instead of what it is that they have, right? So when we think about it from that perspective, there are a number of black men who feel as if though they are only contextualized through a lens of deficit. They are only contextualized through a lens of what it is that they don't have. They are contextualized through a lens of consistently being broken, not only just being broken, but being perpetually broken, irrespective of how it is that there have been advances, how it is that there have been, a number of black men will say, how come y'all focus so much on the bad ones and not on the good ones? There is research that identifies that the way in which we conceptualize black men arguably can be identified as, debatable, whereas we are looking at some of the trends of black men, whether it be going to college, having different careers, doing X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. That lens is very rarely the lens that we utilize in order to contextualize and look at black men. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, we utilize the deficit model so often because it's so accessible. And I've said that about myself as well. I'm like, I have to indemnify myself as well. There are times where I look at black men from a model of deficit because that lens is so easily accessible. And as I've been mulling these things over, as I've been having different conversations on different ends of the spectrum, whether it be with the black manosphere, whether it be with black womanists and black feminists, whether it be with everyday brothers, everyday sisters, I don't think we've ever had the conversation around how it is that black men actually feel, not what they think, but how it is that they feel being perceived from a lens of consistent deficit, right? Mm. So there are a number of studies that identify how it is that media impacts the emotional wellness of women. There are a number of studies that identify how it is that the contextualization of media impacts the wellness of young girls. I don't believe that there is a correlating set of studies that identify how it is that these things impact young black men, right? So when we talk about men's mental health, when we talk about the male loneliness epidemic, when we talk about all of these things, we tend to contextualize it through a lens of, once again, these are the deficits of the men, not necessarily these are the deficits of the structures wherein which these men are being taught and socialized how to be men.
Ooh, my Lord. We haven't even, brother, we're not even 10 minutes into that. Golly, Odi. Give me a second. I feel like I need to take notes right now. I'm literally in my head like, okay, deficit amount, everything. All right, we gotta get back to that because that was a gem. That was a gem too. My God, we gotta definitely touch on this one too. Mm-hmm. Man, where do I start, bro? I definitely want to talk about how you think we feel about the deficit model, because I was thinking to myself, like, dang, that is actually true. There's always conversation about, well, this is what men don't have, and blah, 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 and men need to do this, and men mess the system up, and blah, blah, blah. So what do you think, and I don't know if you're having conversations with black men about this, mm-hmm. Have you talked to black men about how we feel about society's perception of us when it comes to the deficit model?
I believe that I have, but not directly.
Okay.
Right? So whenever we have these conversations, how the conversations come out is from a space of y'all blame black men for everything. Mm-hmm. So the conversation is very reactionary. The conversation is very, it comes from a place of anger. It comes from a place of displeasure. It comes from a place of discontent, right? And I believe that's part of the issue around the conversation is that, once again, we as black men generally do not generate these conversations on our own. We are usually reactionary to these conversations. That's one, but also two, like I said previously, I've been having conversations with men from the black manosphere, most specifically Brother Obsidian Ali. And what he has said is like, we assume that black men want to have these conversations out in the open. We assume that black men want to have these conversations in such a way where they can potentially be examined. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that we should have all of these conversations behind closed doors.
Right.
I do understand how it is that having these conversations out in the open creates the opportunity for the narrative, the narrative that black men have for themselves, from themselves, to be disrupted and corrected to fit the narrative that other people have.
Right.
Right. So, for example, I was listening to a reel, and the speaker was talking about vulnerability, but the context was how it is that Brene Brown, her ideology may not fit black women, because Brene Brown, if you don't know about Brene Brown is a fantastic TEDx speaker. She's an author. She's done amazing work, specifically in the space of vulnerability. And she actually has a TED Talk that's very interesting where she was talking about how she was studying vulnerability, things of that nature, and she went to go do a book signing. And at this book signing, a man walked up to her, and presumably a white man, and the man asked her, "Have you ever had conversations with men about vulnerability?" And she said no. And he said, "That's typical." And what he said was, he said, "Do you see those women who you're signing these books for?" She said, "Yeah." He said, "To me, emotionally, these women would rather watch me die on top of this horse than to see me get off." Right? And I've asked the question a number of times, do we genuinely want men to be emotionally intelligent, or do we want them to be emotionally convenient? Because my firm belief is, and I've also argued the point, that men don't necessarily center themselves as much as they center the performances of the patriarchy. Because if men actually centered themselves, I firmly believe that the patriarchy would exist less intensely.
Okay.
The reason being is because there are a number of men who perform patriarchal things compulsively because they do not believe that outside of those compulsive performances, they will be respected, identified as men, or validated.
Give me some examples of what that looks like.
It's just telling somebody like, "Yo, you hurt my feelings. You hurt my feelings." Not, "Oh, that shit pissed me off." Like, no, none of the anger, like Jason Wilson was talking to, I forget what her name is.
Mel Robbins.
Mel Robbins, yes.
Yeah.
And Jason Wilson said, "We use anger because anger is easy. We use anger because anger is acceptable. We use anger because anger is socially constructed to be the emotion that a man is supposed to wield.
Yeah.
But if a man were to step back away from that anger and look at you and say, 'Yo, you hurt my feelings,' and that just be it, how was the response to that? What is the response to that?
You a bitch.
Either you a bitch or, brother, I've seen this happen in real time. And it doesn't matter whose platform it's on. Going back to the conversation that we were having before we started recording, where somebody in my comments said that, "Oh, Odi is utilizing red pill ideology in order to get the attention of men." And I sat and I processed on that a couple of days, and I was like, is it that I'm using red pill ideology, or is it that we have become so accustomed to identifying men as absolute aggressors?
Okay.
Right? It is difficult, and I've done research on this, peer review research, of course. We societally have a difficulty contextualizing men as victims unless that harm is physically apparent. And even if that harm is physically apparent, we have a difficulty contextualizing that as victimization. It is usually contextualized as the effect of being in spaces that are dangerous. But we have a very difficult time seeing men as victims, right? So when we are talking about this idea of, and once again, I said I've seen it in real time. I've seen this happen in Kier Gaines's comments. I've seen this happen in my comments. I've seen this happen in Dr. Raquel Martin's comments. I've seen it happen so many times where when we begin having this conversation for men, from men, and about men, I've seen it happen in your comments.
Of course.
Right? The conversation becomes about either it is a justification of the abuse, harm, and neglect that men experience because of the patriarchy. It is a minimization of the experience of the abuse, harm, and neglect because of the patriarchy. It is an invalidation of the reality because of the patriarchy. Like there was a clip that was on the Daily Wrap-Up podcast where Jew was talking about his experiences with his mother and how it is that his mother kept him away from his father simply because she just wanted to keep him away from his father. And for this is his experience.
I already know what the comments was like.
There we go.
Something was wrong with your father. That's the reason why she did that.
Right? When we look at it, once again, it is an extension and a consistent implementation of deficit, because all of these things, are patriarchal. All of these things are internalized patriarchy because it is the belief that if a man is present, then everything else should be fine. If a man is here, then everything else should be fine. So having these conversations out in the open and actually hearing the narrative of wounded men and actually hearing the narrative of hurt men, actually hearing the narrative of men who have been harmed, actively harmed, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, whether it be psychological, whether it be any type of abuse, especially it coming from women, it is a difficulty ingesting and internalizing this reality because it deviates from the narrative of the patriarchal man, whether it be the benevolent or the malevolent. The malevolent, it still deviates from that patriarchal narrative or that patriarchal archetype, right? And I think it's either A Will to Change or All About Love, Bell Hooks identified that even when I went with my partner to some of our therapy sessions, it was difficult for me to hear the harm that he had experienced, or it was difficult for me to hear his emotional reality because it disrupted my perception of who it is that I believe that he was supposed to be for me. It disrupted my perspective of what it is that men were, right? Mm. So whenever, and I've been thinking about this as well, I don't believe that we actually examine, or I don't believe that it's very common, that we identify patriarchy as not only just a system of operation, but a system of class, okay. Right? So there is the retort that men created the patriarchy. I don't disagree, but which men? Right? And it's not.
That's important. That's an important distinction.
Yes. It's not just white men. It is wealthy, land-owning, hoarding white men. It is the white men who are in power, right? Patriarchy is a system of power, first and foremost. So when we have these marginalized identities of men who are engaging in this system of patriarchy and getting a negative return on their investment, that's also the reason why a number of men are angry, because they're participating in this system that was not designed for you to participate in. It was designed to extract labor from you and sell you this dream. The same way that y'all be selling women these dreams, it sold you a dream that said if you work hard enough, if you dominate enough women, and if you make enough money, you can be the king of your castle as well. You can be the absolute king of your castle. You can be the dictator of your nation with absolutely no question, with absolutely no regard, and with absolutely without having to yield to be questioned or to be subpoenaed by anybody in your nation. But once again, in order to maintain that type of dynamic, you have to be violent. Mm-hmm. You have to be violent. You have to be, right? And that violence requires the subjugation of other people around you. But once again, once you start going into marginalized identities, especially within black men, if black people as a totality have a history of resistance, if black people in totality have a history of pushing back against authoritative spaces or authoritative structures, what makes you think that as a black man who has less access to these resources, who has less access to these implementations, who was not even considered to be a man when the patriarchy was constructed. Mm-hmm. If you want me to be very honest, black men were considered to be the antithesis of patriarchy by constructing them as insatiable beasts. You cannot be a patriarch because you're not a man. Once again, going back to the model of deficit, you are angry because you are attempting to engage yourself in a system that at its core is antithetical to you. You are not able to access all of these things in order to make yourself a complete man. It's not just black men, but black men are on the complete opposite side of this sliding scale. Because the closer you get to, and I said this on Tripp's podcast, the masculinity that you are attempting to obtain requires your dehumanization. Even if you're talking about wealthy white men, in order for them to maintain and retain that wealth, they have to consistently be a slave to capitalism, constantly. Mm-hmm. They have to consistently be outside of it. They have to consistently forego their own well-being in order to continue to maintain the system. There are multiple studies that indicate there are very wealthy men who are completely and totally soul shattered. Why? Because is lonely at the top.
Let's talk about the loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is a great segue into that. What do you mean by the male loneliness epidemic? What exactly is that? Why do you think it's so prevalent right now? Why are we even talking about it? I know that was very loaded, but.
Whew. So there are a number of ways to look at this, right? The male loneliness epidemic. So there are three things that are happening concurrently.
Okay.
Right? Male loneliness epidemic. Folks in the United States are not having sex as much as they used to. And our birth rate has declined, right? Whenever we talk about statistics, whenever we talk about studies, and whenever we talk about information that's presented and published in the United States, there is a part that you have to critically analyze from the perspective of propaganda, right?
Okay.
So the male loneliness epidemic, if you recognize the conversations that are happening around the male loneliness epidemic, it's always in terms of relationships, mostly. Mm-hmm. It's mostly in terms of relationships, mostly in terms of relationships with women. Men are not having enough sex. Men are not going out on enough dates. Men are not the least talked about portion of that is platonic friendships. The least discussed portion of that is platonic friendships. Platonic friendships, building community, being in proximity with other individuals who have your best interests at heart is the most psychologically stabilizing portion of anybody's life outside of a relationship, outside of a romantic relationship, right? Because even in relationship modalities, when we talk about a healthy relationship dynamic between two people, romantic relationship, we talk about you having a life outside of your partner. We talk about you having hobbies, having friends, all of these things outside of your partner.
Right.
Because your partner cannot be everything to you all at once. They cannot, right? So the male loneliness epidemic, in my mind, is a descriptor to identify how it is that men are not receiving, how it is that men are not engaging in close relationships, whether they be platonic or romantic, based upon the traditional masculinist ideology of hyper-individualism. But once again, I've said this before too. We believe that hyper-independence is a trauma response that is explicitly identified to women, and it's not. It's not. Hyper-independence is a trauma response irrespective of your gender. Hyper-independence is a trauma response based upon abandonment, it is based upon neglect, and it is based upon perceiving that the emotional proximity to somebody is a threat due to previous harm. Right? Mm-hmm. So, very rarely do we talk about men developmentally. Very rarely. What's going on with black men? What's going on with black men? What's going on with black men? We don't talk about black boys. We don't talk about black boys until they start, once again, becoming problems that need to be fixed.
Right.
Right? If we look at how it is that men develop over time, over their lifespan, we do not support the soft skills that are necessary in order for men to build healthy relationships because, once again, we identify these things with femininity. We identify because there was a Michael B. Jordan just put out an article, or he did an interview where they asked him about his pattern of embracing his co-stars. He was like, bro, because I love them. What do you mean? Like, I love them. I embrace my brothers because I love them, right? And people in the comments was like, yeah, but you ain't gotta. But men are touch deprived. Men will say, my love language is physical touch. And they are using it to leverage it in order to, once again, be fucking. But a number of men chase that sexual contact because, once again, from a traditional masculinist contextualization, I cannot engage in love without domination. In the way that I show you that I love you is through control. It is through management. It is not through connection. It is through being a point of unlimited transaction. But at some point in time, you are going to feel used. You are going to feel underappreciated. You are going to feel as if though people don't appreciate what it is that you do. But once again, that's emotional. You spent your entire life spewing that you don't need this. So why would I give it to you? That's another reason why we're so angry, because we have not learned how to be honest about what it is that we need, because we believe that if we are honest about it, once again, the women in my life will rather watch me down this horse than to get off of it.
We need a break, Odi. You ain't gonna keep doing it. You know the tradition by now. You've been here many times. You know, when you start spewing all this stuff and you give people too many gems back to back, you don't give them a chance, you're going to have these freaking people messaging me like, my man just passed out in the car.
Pass the collection plate type shit.
Yo, my man just fainted. He said, somebody finally said all the things I've been thinking but couldn't get out. Nah, man. Listen, bro. You cooking right now, bro.
Yeah, G, and it's
you cooking.
I also want to identify that in some parts, the male loneliness epidemic is, we as men need to be more accountable to how it is that we perpetuate some of the outcomes that we have.
Explain that, yeah.
So going back to the example that I gave about you've been saying the entire time that you don't need this, but the reality of the situation is that you want it, you just don't know how to say it. I've had men as clients say to me in their relationships, I don't need to be buttered up. I don't need all of these nice words, X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. I just need her to stop telling me what it is that I don't do. Once again, going back to this deficit model. I say, okay, that's cool. But what you are asking for is still an affirmation. What you are asking for is still for somebody to appreciate what it is that you do.
Facts.
What you are asking for is for a reduction in criticism. You are still asking to be affirmed. You are still asking for them to say things to you that are not necessarily of applause, but of humanization. You are asking somebody to humanize your efforts, right?
Right.
And on the other side of that, like, one of the conversations that I can't stand is this conversation. Well, it's not that I can't stand it. It's a very annoying conversation. Is this idea of the bare minimum, right? And the reason why I say this conversation is it can be annoying is because a part of this conversation rests squarely in the wheelhouse of trauma. What do I mean when I say this? There are a number of people, both men and women, who will say, why would I thank you for doing what you're supposed to do? Why would I thank you for you supposed to do this? You're supposed to do that. I'm like, I know for a fact that you got that from your parents. I know for a fact that you grew up in a house where they withheld affirmation from you. But because you've forgotten what it felt like to not have affirmation because you numbed yourself to it, now giving somebody else affirmation feels like doing too much.
Before we get back into the rest of the episode, it is that time of the year again. What do I mean by that time of the year? What I mean is, it is the time of the year when you are around more family because of the holidays. So there's more family drama, there's more triggers, there's more opportunities for you to experience pain, trauma, and all of the different things that you normally don't have to experience throughout the rest of the year. And so with that comes heightened levels of anxiety, heightened levels of depression, seasonal depression, all these different kind of things that we experience as human beings. And so it's very, very important that you're taking care of yourself. And one of the ways in which you can do that is join our webinar on November 22nd and 29th. Those are both Saturdays. We do that on purpose to make sure that you don't have work, hopefully. At 6 p.m. Eastern, we are hosting a free webinar teaching you and your loved ones how to find a dope Black therapist. We do this every year. Every year we have hundreds or thousands of people actually that register, that attend, and that find information that helps them to find a Black therapist that can change their life. At Express Yourself Black Man, we're all about being proactive instead of reactive. If there's something that you're going through right now that you know a therapist can help you with, join the webinar. If you don't even think you need anything from a therapist, still join the webinar because a therapist can only help to elevate your life. So with that being said, please sign up. Go to expressyourselfblackman.com/links. The webinar link will be there for you to join. It is a free webinar. Even if you cannot attend on those days, you should still RSVP because we will be sending the recording to everybody that RSVPs to the webinar. So go to expressyourselfblackman.com/links and sign up to make sure that you reserve your spot because we have a limited amount of spots and we always get thousands of people that sign up every year. With that being said, let's get back to the rest of the episode. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Peace. I tell my girl all the time, I need you to tell me I'm good. I'm doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't got no problem telling her that. When she walk in, I give her a little second after she come back home from work. But if I just worked on something for the whole day to make sure that you could walk in here and it was done, I listen, baby, I'm gonna need you to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, we in the crib. I just did like some electrical work and stuff. Taught myself how to do it so we don't have to pay an electrician.
Mr. Fix It, yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I told her, I said, babe, I need you to come take a look at this. When you're ready, I need you to come take a look at this because I need that affirmation. I tell her all the time, when I do something, I need the affirmation. And I don't got no problem with that because I know I need it.
Mm-hmm.
I know I need it. I know how it makes me feel. And I also know what the flip side of that, how that makes me feel. Mm-hmm. When you're sitting there working on something, you literally sacrificing time that you could have been putting into your dreams or whatever the case may be or other things to work on something for your shorty or the household for them to just walk by it and pretend like it didn't even happen.
Mm-hmm.
That bothers me. That, like you said, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't got no problem letting shorty know, yo, I need you to affirm me for what I just did. Mm-hmm. I seen a skit, I think it's Chase and Mel. I don't know if you know them. Yeah. They do a lot of comedy skits.
Yeah.
They did a really good skit. And I think it definitely probably has over 1 million views on social media. I think part of the reason why it has so many views, it's a skit where Mel, his shorty, that's his fiance now, I believe. Mm-hmm. She walks into the crib. He's washing the dishes, right? She starts walking upstairs. As she says hi to him, she says hi. He turns to her, shows her the dish as he's washing it, and he says hi back, right? She starts walking up the stairs. He goes, You feel me? She comes back down. She said, oh my God, man, you're doing such a great job. Da-da-da. People laughing, but the reason why it's so relatable is because men do need that affirmation when we do something. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs it. It don't matter how small it is. I don't care if I'm just sweeping something up. I need to be appreciated. Mm-hmm. Not saying that you gotta, every single time I do something, you gotta be patting me on my back for every little thing that I do, but I do need to be seen in here. Because part of the reason why men feel so annoyed, angry, upset, frustrated at home is because we doing all these things, and while we believe it's something that we're supposed to be doing, we feel like at the very least, the person that we're doing it for should at least see that and reward us for it in the form of some type of affirmation. Mm-hmm. And if you won't even give me affirmation, what the hell am I doing all this stuff for in the first place? Mm-hmm. Yes, I know I should be doing it, but damn, you can't even appreciate me for it? Mm-hmm. You can't even say thank you? Mm-hmm. You don't know how tight I get, bro. And I say this openly. Mm-hmm. I say this openly. You don't know how tight I get when I hold the door open for a woman and she just walk through. As if I don't even exist. Mm-hmm. Bro, it takes everything out of me not to just slam the door when the next woman's walking in. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because mentally for me, it's like, damn, you so used to the patriarchy that you believe that my role here is just to serve you. Mm-hmm. And I'm nobody's servant. Yes, I'm a servant leader, but I'm nobody's servant. Mm-hmm. I'm doing these things voluntarily because I believe that it is my duty, but at the same time, I do want to hear the affirmation. Mm-hmm. So I do get upset if I hold the door open for a woman and she just walk right through like I don't exist. It does bother me.
But see, I'm going to tell you, G.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, right? When we take the feminist contextualization of the patriarchy harms everybody, right? Women so what I see most often is women, when we're talking about parenting, why are you giving him applause for doing X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C? But you'll say the same thing, that being a mother is a thankless job. You'll say that nobody will appreciate X, Y, Z, and A, B, C. I think Ali Sadiq did a comedy special, and he talked about the difference between Mother's Day and Father's Day, right? And once again, the patriarch, he was like, Mother's Day is in the top 5 holidays. Father's Day is after Arbor Day. I don't even know what Arbor Day is, right? And I thought about that as well. I was like, yo, have you recognized that most of the Father's Day specials have something to do with tools of labor? Right?
Wow.
Most lawnmowers, drills, hammers, right? Ties, socks, all of these things have to do with what it is that you do, not who it is that you are. That's number one. But also number two, once again, when we talk about how patriarchy harms each person, the concept of invisible labor, right? The idea is that you are doing what you're supposed to do because that's your role. And if that's your role, I should not have to congratulate you, or I should not have to applaud you for what it is that you're supposed to be doing, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's minimizing to a particular degree of the effort that it requires for me to engage in what it is that I'm doing, right? So once again, the idea of affirming, or the lack thereof, for a number of men creates resentment, or it creates this feeling of, for some men, is something that they say it rolls off their back, X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C. But it goes back into the conversation that we were having about, we tend not to look at men developmentally, right? There have been a number of men and women who have been tossing around the conversation of the reason why it's easier to raise boys than girls, right? Some people say, moms, they love their sons, but they raise their daughters. But other people will say people raise their daughters, or they control their daughters, but they neglect their sons, right? It's easier to raise boys because we feel like we don't have to affirm them as much. We don't have to do all of these emotional things with boys. But then how does that impact their development? Right. How does that impact their self-worth? How does that impact their perception of self, right? It is the idea, and once again, this is going back to what it is that you were talking about that invisibility, that lack of affirmation, or that lack of seeing what it is that you are doing. For Black men, that hurts more because, once again, we are used to being seen as perpetually broken.
Right.
We are used to being seen as perpetually invisible. We are used to being, that's the reason why so many Black men will say, oh, y'all focus so much on the bad ones. What about the good ones? Keir Gaines said something on his podcast with his wife, Noam, and he was like, yo, being a good man is like being an A student in a class. Nobody checks on you, nobody engages with you because they're going to assume that you're okay. They presume that, once again, I've asked the question before, when you think about your perception of a good man, when you think about your perception, that archetype about what a good man is, does that good man have any bad days? Is that good man ever injured? Does this good man have weak points? For most people, he does not. Right? Within us as men, we tend to contextualize ourselves as like, superheroes, protagonists. They call it the heterosexual hero complex, X, Y, Z, and A, B, and C, right? But once again, that's still dehumanizing. That is still removing you from your humanity. A number of men are lonely because when they are by themselves, there is nobody there to criticize them. There's nobody there to invalidate their realities. There's nobody there to say you're not doing enough. And there's nobody who is going to, conversely, there's nobody who is going to challenge me to step outside of my zone of comfort as it relates to emotional vulnerability.
That's where that hyper independence comes from.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I know if I'm alone, I have the peace of that loneliness versus having to be in a relationship or in relation with someone who is going to dehumanize me.
Yeah, but at the same time, in therapy, we ask the question: if you decide to self-isolate, are you really healed, or are you just not being placed in situations that challenge you?
Say that again, brother, please.
When you self-isolate, are you really healed, or are you just not being placed in spaces or positions that will challenge you?
Mm-hmm.
It is very easy to be by yourself because it does not require the skill of community. It does not require the skill of accountability. It does not require the skill of responsibility. It does not require you to make amends for how it is that you behaved when you were angry, right? Because a number of men, when they are angry in relationships, the way in which they mismanage that anger erodes the relationship and it damages the relationship.
Right.
But what they will say in return is, because I'm a man, X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C. Because I'm a man, I have the justification, the ability, and the wherewithal to engage with this emotion in such a way where you are supposed to do what it is that I say. You are supposed to. All of these things are attempting to control and manage the environment so that you do not get your feelings hurt, so that your authority is not challenged, so that, once again, in order to be a patriarch, it requires the dehumanization of everybody, including you.
Mm-hmm.
Because patriarchy is a system of power. But a number of black men hold on to that so strongly because, once again, it is this belief that is how it is that I validate or overcome this consistent perception of being perpetually deficient.
Man, brother, my Lord. We ain't gonna get through this episode.
Yes, we always do.
I don't know how we do it, bro. Because right now, I'm like, man, I know AI gonna take like 15 minutes compiling the notes. Because, man, we are touching on some topics, bro. We are touching on some topics. I want to pivot a little bit because I know there's some black women that are watching right now that are allies, that are part of the community, that want to help black men to win, that want to help black men heal. And they're thinking right now, okay, so how do I help the man in my life? What are some things that I should do? I want to take it from a black woman's perspective, what you think black women should do to help black men. And then I also want to say, I want you to answer from a black man's perspective, what can we do to help black men?
I feel you.
Yeah.
So I want to start with what it is that we as black men can do to help black men.
Okay.
We are more likely to minimize, invalidate, and reduce one another than women are to invalidate, reduce, and minimize us. And a number of folks are going to disagree with what it is that I say.
I was just going to say that. They're going to be like, hell no, there's no way.
I don't give a fuck.
Okay.
Right? Are you as open with your homeboys as you want to be with your woman? And immediately, I know that there's gonna be, wow, well, that's my girl. That's
different.
That's different. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Why are you not talking with your homeboys? Why are you not? Oh, because they gonna call me sassy. Is that why is that?
Mm-hmm. A lot of them are gonna say, why would I talk to my homeboys about that?
Why wouldn't you? Why would you not? I really need you to sit and think about that. Oh, because men don't. Why don't men do it? Why don't we do it? Oh, that's just not what men do. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do we not have these conversations amongst ourselves? Why do we not construct these spaces amongst ourselves? Why do the Center of Trauma Training Consortium identifies a safe space as a space where you can comfortably assume that no emotional, physical, or psychological harm is going to come to you. Why do you not believe that you can create that space with your homeboys? Because the first thing that comes to your mind is sexualization. You believe that that is a homoerotic space. That is what you believe. That's a form of minimization, right? That's number one. Number two, you have internalized the narrative that your homeboys Did you see that clip of the Joe Budden podcast with Mark Lamont Hill and Joe Budden? And Mark Lamont Hill was talking about how it is that he was feeling depressed, and Joe Budden made a joke about it.
Nah, I didn't even peep that. That's crazy.
He made a joke about it. Oh, what you got to be depressed about, Dada? We do that shit to each other way quicker. Why? Because we are not used to sitting with our own emotions. We are so used to performing masculinity around one another in order to evaluate and assess our own masculinity that when we get to our partners, assumedly who are women, we then are dumping all of that emotional labor onto them.
Right. I haven't had the opportunity to do anywhere else.
There we go. Content creator name is Pierre. He does a lot of work with youth around deconstructing masculinity. And he posted a clip on Instagram where, once again, on the Joe Budden podcast, I think it was an extension of the same clip, where all of the men in the room immediately turned to the only woman in the room in order to help Mark process his emotions. We are placing entirely too much emotional labor on women. Entirely too much. Way too much. Because once again, our expectations, and I did the research on this frame of reference comes from a World War II, it's either World War I or World War II. The idea that women should be safe harbors for broken men literally is wartime ideology. Because the men who were coming, and this is also the reason why we have the, I forget which act, I think it was the Rehabilitation Act, but when men were coming back from the war, men who were injured, men who were permanently disfigured, these men experienced such dispositionate mental health outcomes that they started producing, once again, propaganda, displaying women who were nurses, literally nursing these men back to health, right? And the idea was that the woman's job was to make you feel like a whole man, even though you were quite literally missing pieces of yourself. It is her job to put you back together. Even though you are more likely to be around the individuals who you went to battle with than you are with this woman. Once again, why can we not create these spaces within ourselves? Right. Why can we not create spaces within and for Black men that allow us to be the version of ourselves that we know that we need to be in order to, at the very least, have our humanity validated? Right? When we go around other men, we have a tendency to want our masculinity validated. But your masculinity is an extension of your humanity. It's not the entirety of it.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand.
I'm just gonna say it straight out. We need to stop behaving as if though every time we engage with one another, it gotta be some sexual shit. Like that's just an annoying thing. Like why do we consistently conflate intimacy with sexuality? Those are two different things. Those are two completely different things. There's intimacy, there is sensuality, and there is sexuality.
Explain the difference, please.
Intimacy is closeness. Intimacy is the ability to engage in openness, vulnerability, and safety within a particular set of people. That's intimacy. So you can have an intimate relationship with your friends. You can have an intimate relationship with your family. You can create intimacy wherever there is safety. Sensuality is engaging with the senses. It is engaging with your five senses, but it is engaging with the senses in such a way that it is pleasurable. It is regulating, and it is centering, right? So something can be sensual without it being sexual. So when you go into a restaurant that's well lit, that has great ambiance, that has amazing food, that restaurant is a sensual space. It is not sexual, but it is sensual. But this is the reason why when you go into these spaces, you usually feel more regulated, you usually feel more calm, you usually feel centered, because the environment was created to elicit that type of response.
Right.
Sexuality, once again, is the engagement in or the communication thereof around sex. And it does not necessarily have to be intercourse, but it is the concept, the idea, or the constructs around being sexual.
And you said we skip straight from intimacy to sexuality.
Yes. Yes.
Because we assume as soon as you are emotionally intimate with a man, you are automatically
Sexual.
Yeah.
All right. And that's the thing. It's like, once again, I've said this before, I pray for the day that I free my brothers, or we free our brothers from the chains of homophobia. Because a lot of us as black men cannot be around one another for too long in a space that is intimate without making some type of joke to break the tension, right? And even with, because what men will say is, oh, I can't even go hang out at my home without somebody calling it gay. What is the benefit in asking men to be more emotionally present when the emotional presence is going to be responded to with, you must be penetrating this individual? That is, once again, it's dehumanizing. It is minimizing. What you are saying is that, once again, this man is an insatiable beast. He has no other dimension to himself but the dimension of sex. That's an invalidating reality, right? And it's a segue into, last point. We as men, black men especially, need to stop. And this one is going to be crazy. We as men, black men especially, need to stop associating the will to either do violence or the engagement in athleticism as the pinnacle of masculinity.
Explain that.
There are a number of black men who, because they do not engage in sports or because they are not doing knuckle dragging behavior, that their sexuality or their masculinity is questioned.
Right.
So because I like to read, because I like to do art, because I like to do theater, because I like to dance, because I like to knit, because I like to do things that are stereotypically perceived as feminine, you are questioning my masculinity. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Bro, I used to be a real angry youngin'. I used to be mad as fuck, right? And my mama signed me up for a pottery class.
Okay.
Right? One of the first things that come out of my father's mouth, oh, that's something that women do. My mama was like, the class is taught by a man. Immediately stop talking. Right? Why is it that once again, we perpetuate and we instill a number of these things within our own circles that are extremely limiting to the reality of our breadth and width of interest, right? So once again, if you're not playing a sport, if you're not out here, one of the things that men who say that they have not done well with black women say, oh, because I don't make all this money, or because I'm not a gangster, or because I don't do. These are the ways in which a number of us as black men perpetuate what we believe to be masculinity. These are the archetypes of masculinity that we've been shown growing up.
Right.
You're the athlete, you're the baller, or you're the gangster. That's a very limiting experience. But once again, when we step outside of these experiences, or when we step outside of these realities, our masculinity is questioned. And we do that a lot to ourselves.
Yeah.
We perpetuate these things within ourselves, right? Now, for the women folk, genuinely, check your internalized patriarchy.
A lot of women don't know they have internalized patriarchy. They're going to be like, what you mean? I'm a victim of this system. I don't play a role in it.
That's the same thing that black men say. Same thing that black men say, right? But you perpetuate the system. Context. So in the book, African-Centered Black and African Psychology from an American Context by Kobe K.K. Cambone, in the book he says that you cannot be immersed in a system of white supremacy without internalizing some white supremacist ideology. Jane Elliott said something very similar. She said, if you were born in the United States, if you were born in the West, if you are not intentional about learning the opposite of what it is that you are being taught in this country, you will grow up to be racist. Right? Similarly, black men and black women, we are consistently being inundated with ideas of what it is that a man is supposed to do, how a man is supposed to be, right? Check your internalized patriarchy, that's number one, but also two, check your white supremacist contextualizations of black men, right?
What does that look like?
I am a victim of the system. I do not perpetuate it. The question that I then ask is, can you describe your ideal man without utilizing patriarchal ideologies? Can you describe your ideal man without saying, I want him to fix something, I want him to make more money than me. Can you describe your man without utilizing patriarchal ideologies? Can you do that? Right? If you cannot, then you must admit that you have internalized patriarchal ideologies to a point where the men around you in proximity, so the same way a number of women want us to pay attention to how it is that we speak about women, I want you all to pay attention to how it is that you speak about men. Right? Because once again, we as black men and black women do not become more aware or considerate of one another until we are in romantic relationships with one another.
Right.
But there is a wide range of interaction between black men and black women before we get to that point.
Right.
We need to learn how to be in community with one another before we start fucking. Right? So going back to your question of, I'm a victim of this system, I don't participate in it. I've had literal conversations with women online about whether or not women can harm men. Right? I've had conversations with black women about whether or not women can be physically abusive to men. I've had conversations around whether or not the utilization of the existence of patriarchy is justification for being emotionally harmful to men in community with you. Right? Non-directed, aimless, reactionary engagement with the patriarchy is not dismantling, it's just destruction.
Explain that.
Huey P. Newton wrote a book called Revolutionary Suicide.
Okay.
Revolutionary suicide, the idea or the concept is you are moving within a system that is designed to remove you from this planet. If you are going to be moving within this system and you know that at some point in time you are going to be removed from this planet, then your job within that space is to not be reactionary, because to be reactionary means that you are not being intentional. It means that you are not being directed. It means that you are not being pointed in your responses. You are simply being reactionary, being revolutionary. And there's a documentary on PBS called When the Revolution Doesn't Come, and they interviewed a number of Black Panther cubs who, grew up in the revolution. And I forget her name, but she is a queer Black woman, and her mother ran the free breakfast kitchen. I think she ran it in Oakland, California. She said, the idea of revolution that I have is simply not an exchange of power. It is recontextualizing the way that it is that we perceive one another, right? There are a number of women, Black women, who desire for Black men to be benevolent patriarchs so that they can feel more affirmed in their femininity, away from having to consistently labor in ways that they feel like they should not have to labor.
And
Right?
what does it mean to be a benevolent patriarch?
A benevolent patriarch is a man who performs all of the parts of the patriarchy without complaining about how it is that weight bothers him.
So basically, shut up and put up.
Pretty much, right? The idea is to recognize and understand and listen to how it is that Black men have been impacted by the patriarchy without inserting your experience in order to minimize his own. So in other words, I did it, why can't you? Because the way in which people respond to Black men is different from how it is that they respond to Black women. It is, right? Black men are perceived as an immediate threat physiologically. Black women are perceived as challenging and annoying, potentially disruptive, but they are not perceived as threatening as Black men. They're not, right? And this is not to say that the things that Black women experience at the hands of this system are less worse than Black men, because some Black men will try to make that argument. I'll never make the argument. It's a foolish argument. And once again, the ways in which parts of the system were designed based upon gender between Black men and Black women, they were designed in such a way where the resources for Black men are not as plentiful as Black women, simply because the crux of the Black inferiority myth is within the intellectual nature of men. Okay. So if we think about it from the perspective of, once again, the overarching patriarchy, white men in power do not perceive white women as threats. They don't humanize white women. They don't perceive them as a factor. It is a man-to-man thing. So in their minds, and this is the reason why I consistently tell Black men, like, yo, you have to recognize that Black women, instead of calling them masculine, identify how it is that they can move within the system in ways that you can't, and then assist them in moving, and then assist them in moving in that way. White men perceive their masculinity to be threatened the most by Black men.
Right.
The most.
So there's moves that Black women can make that we can't make.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Easier. There's easier moves that they can make that we can't make.
Easier. It's difficult for me to say easy.
Okay.
But it's a little. There are more pathways that have been designed for Black women because of the way in which Black women have been identified in the context of being women.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
So once again.
So not easier, but maybe more opportunities.
Yes.
Potentially.
So the idea is that, once again, because Black men will ask this question about, oh, if misandry doesn't exist, then how come the court system is Black men and white men will say this. If misandry doesn't exist, how come the court system is so, biased against men? Because the patriarchal idea is that irrespective of how it is that it operates, the woman is always going to be the better parent. It is your job to go obtain the resources. It is your job to do X, Y, and Z. She's always going to be the better caretaker. She's default better caretaker. That's a patriarchal ideology.
Because she's a nurturer.
There
You're
we go.
the provider.
There we go. Right?
There's no way you can be a better parent.
There we go.
You're a provider. That's not even your role.
There we go. Right? If we extend that same logic to, once again, the pull yourself up by your bootstraps analogy, why would I give you the resources if you are supposed to be the capable one? Why would I provide you with these opportunities if you are supposed to be the more rugged? Why would I give you this hand up if you are supposed to be able to climb? Right?
You don't need it.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
That's just in the context of being a man. if we are now talking about them being black men, why would I even give you the opportunity to be in the same room with me to be able to defend yourself against this myth of inferiority that I utilize in order to identify me as being the superior?
Right.
Why would I let you in the house?
Yep.
You're supposed to be in the field.
So I'll limit the opportunity as much as I can to keep my power.
Yes.
From you, because I perceive you as a threat.
Yes. What can black women do to help black men? I don't believe that black women should be doing any more that they already are. I do believe that some of the things that they are doing can be done a bit differently.
Okay, talk about that.
The entire conversation that a number of black men have is black women are our biggest enemies, and it is because of feminism. First of all, I'll argue that shit all day, because a number of black women don't even trust white women in the space of feminism. Historically, feminism has discarded black women whenever it is that they've gotten to their point of political operation. So that there's already a very storied history there.
Yeah.
What is more so, what I'm noticing more so is that black women have not evaluated how it is that they assess black men through a lens of a patriarchy that has specifically locked them out.
Okay.
Right? So once again, going back to the whole idea, if I could do it, why can't you? That is a minimizing and invalidating reality, because when black men actually start talking about their experiences, black women will minimize them to excuses.
Right.
Right? It's not an excuse as much as it is a reality for, once again, black men developmentally. Mm-hmm. Because even if we go back to the studies of young black men in preschool, as early as the age of 3, black boys are seen as more disruptive. They are seen as more violent. They are seen as more of a dysregulation to a classroom environment.
Yeah. They
are seen as less easily controlled or managed as black girls. But once again, that's less about them being black and more about them being boys and girls, right? This is the way that we've been socialized from a contextualization of gender. When we add the layer of being black, it now goes from being challenging to being dangerous. I have to control or corral you, and if I cannot control or corral you, I have to put you out.
Yeah.
Once I put you out, you are now removed from the resources that will enable you to draw up on some of the things that are going on in the classroom environment for you to perform at a particular level, right? If we take that premise, if we take that reality and we extend it developmentally across the board, you will recognize how many holes or how many spaces in which black men do not have the same amount of resources, educational resources, or occupational resources as black women, right? Mm-hmm. And once again, this is less about us being black and more about how it is that the patriarchy perceives men and women. Right? Men are supposed to be able to go out and get it irrespective of what the obstacles are. Women need assistance. Women need help. Women need to be, and it's not because, women are just, no. The patriarchy is always going to perceive women as infantile. Always. Black women are usually perceived as masculine. So once again, these things are present, but black men, the perception of black men is that, once again, you are a perpetual deficit. You are a perpetual deficiency. Why would I invest in a perpetual deficiency? The only thing that I'm trying to extract from you is your labor. The only thing that I'm attempting to extract from you is your performance. This is the reason why we have so many sports camps. This is the reason why we have so many things that have to do, once again, with our athleticism or our physical labor, right? There are a number of black women who do not recognize the dearth of educational resources for black men until they have black children, until they have little black boys. Mm-hmm. Then they begin asking the question, where are all of these resources for black boys, right?
Non-existent.
They're not existent. But going back to the question of what can black women do to help, I don't need you to do any more emotional labor than what you're already doing. What I do need from you is to clear the space and not monopolize the emotional space by centering yourself in a conversation that black men have created for themselves, about themselves, and amongst themselves. So if you're asking us a question and we give you an answer, a honest and a truthful answer, don't listen to respond, listen to understand. You dig what I'm saying?
I got you. All right, I'm interrupting this podcast episode to let you guys know to leave a review on the podcast. Please, 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 if you are listening to this episode and you're finding value in this episode, you're enjoying the conversation, or you've enjoyed a previous episode or conversation, and it's safe to operate your phone right now, please leave us a review. Your review is a free and easy way to support us, and it helps us reach more people like you. We're on a mission to build a stronger, more connected black community, starting with black men. And you can help us on that mission by taking a minute out of your day to leave a review. Your review helps us generate more listeners, which in turn generates more revenue, allowing us to expand the platform even further. So please take a few seconds out of your day. I know you're busy. I understand. I know you're doing a lot, but it will help us greatly if you would just take a few seconds out of your day to leave a review right now. Did you leave a review yet? All right, let's get back to the episode. This is good.
Try my best, G.
No, you ain't trying. You ain't trying on it. You are not trying, brother. You are doing, man. Nah, this is good, bro. I'm just like, man, when we release this, they're going to have to watch this like 2 or 3 times at least, bro. They like, what he said? Let me rewind that real quick. Let's go back 15 minutes, cause.
Oh, wait. Because once again, I always got to bring it back to the man. Because even within myself, I still believe that my belief, my firm belief is that black men are the only people who can save black men.
Okay.
Nobody else can do that.
Why do you believe that?
Because we are the only ones who know what we need.
Okay.
We are the only ones who know what it is that we need and how it is that we need it.
Okay.
Right? So going back to that dearth of resources for black boys, or going back to that dearth of resources, the question that I always have is, okay, so then what's the solution? Who are the people who are supposed to do the work? Who are the people who are supposed to show up? Who are the people who are supposed to create these structures? If we, once again, I don't do that whole flip-floppy shit. If we are going to say that we are the leaders, if we are going to say that we are the protectors, if we are going to say that we are the providers, how are we leading, protecting, and providing for little black boys? How are we doing that? What does that look like? If we can identify what the lack of resources are, how are we obtaining these resources in order to build these spaces? So going back to the question of what can black men do for black men, look at how it is that we have lacked developmentally, and then fill in those spaces. Go petition, go school board, go government, go all of these different places. Go, seek, find. Even if you don't believe in those types of things, crowdfund, put things in, build the structure.
Right.
Build the structure.
Right.
Build the structure, right? Because once again, it is very difficult for me to hear black women won't let us do. The government won't let us do. It is very difficult for me to hear that. Because once again, if we are talking about African American culture, self-determination, everything that you just said to me means that you are allowing somebody else to determine the destiny of your protege. What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you going to decide to be the man that you needed when you were younger? Or are you going to continue to utilize the fact that you did not have men around you in order to continue to be the motherfucker who is absent?
I'm telling you, those excuses sound real good.
Excuses are tools of the incompetent that build bridges that lead to nowhere, and those who use them are masters of nothing and seldom accomplish anything. Excuses are tools of the incompetent that build bridges that lead to nowhere, and those who use them are masters of nothing and seldom accomplish anything.
Oh,
The second part to that, I, me, my, mine, these are things that do not shine. We, us, ours together, these are the things that last forever.
and what does that second part mean?
I, me, my, mine. These are things that do not shine. We, us, ours, together. These are the things that last forever. Whether or not we want to admit it or not, you cannot save community without community. You cannot save community without community. I said it in my podcast, but I misquoted it. The prefix COMM does not mean people, it means altogether.
Okay.
Right? And folks will say, oh, we need to stop with this gender war stuff. Black men need black women and black women need black men. I agree. But are you going to be accountable and responsible in community? Are you going to be accountable and responsible for your part, not your role, your part, your strength, what you can do, how you can show up? What are you doing? What are you doing? Yes, you have to understand how to be capable and how to be accountable for the self. That is one part. But the other part is, how does that self show up in community? So if you are complaining, if you have a complaint, if you are unsatisfied, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Because at the point of knowledge and at the point of awareness, if you do not implement, you are now being negligent.
That's a fact. Once you're aware, you don't make the change.
That's a decision.
Yeah. I used to tell my therapist all the time. That's why therapy was such a hard thing for me sometimes, because I'm the type of person that once I have the information, it's very hard for me not to make the change. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also why some black men don't pursue therapy. It's not that I don't think a lot of black men aren't ready for therapy. I think a lot of black men are uncomfortable with the idea that they would have to change from the current version of themselves once they have the information as well.
Yes, and I've seen a number of black men go through therapy. I've assisted a number of black men going through therapy. I think there's also the reality that on the other side of this, I'm going to have to reconstruct the entirety of my life, because who it is that I was before this, I've built my entire life around it. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of work around this performance. Once I stop performing, then what? Because the performance is all I know.
Yep.
Right? That's one, but also two, I tell people a lot, the same way that cognitive intelligence can be isolating, emotional intelligence can be just as isolating.
Facts.
Can be just as isolating, right?
Facts.
When you become emotionally intelligent, you can, man, homeboys, left and right, poof, drop, poof, gone.
Oh, you moving like that? Yeah. Can't talk to you.
Right?
Can't talk to you. Because the moment I start talking to you about the fact that me and Shorty broke up and it's bothering me, you like, just go fuck this Shorty. And I'm like, I know that's not going to work for me, because I just talked to my therapist about how I did that before and that didn't work. So I definitely can't talk to you about nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's, you right.
1,000%. It was another clip from the Tonight's Conversation podcast. And I don't know what the brother's name is, but he was like, I don't believe that men should sit around and gossip about what happened to him. I'm like,
gossip?
That's gossip. Right?
Oh my God.
I believe that men should just get up and move on. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But once again, I literally had this conversation with a client of mine like Friday. I said, because he asked the question, like, I don't understand why I'm so angry. He was a young boy. I said, listen, you were dealing with grief. You were dealing with loss. You were dealing with feelings of abandonment. He had won an engineering contest. And I said, let's think about this in terms of engineering. Mm-hmm. All of these things have mass. When you place mass in the when you place mass in the context of movement, you have velocity, right? I want you to imagine that these masses are on a locomotive and they're on a train, right? Keir Gaines made the same analogy. He said a number of us have emotions and we believe that these emotions can just stop on a dime, but they can't. It's very similar to a train that has to stop. If that train is going at full speed, it's going to take at least a mile for that train to stop, because all of this mass that you have gained and all of this momentum that you have gained from running from yourself, you think that you're able to outrun this shit, but these things are a part of you.
Yeah.
So once you stop running, a lot of y'all are afraid to stop running because you are afraid of that velocity. You are afraid of what's going to happen when you finally stop. You don't know yourself outside of movement. You are not familiar with yourself outside of labor. You are not familiar with who it is that you are when you just sit with your own thoughts. And that's the reason why you move so much, because sitting with your own thoughts, your thoughts are not friendly to you. And that's the reason why when I did that clip with Nicole Glass on Affirmations for Black Men, I said in the clip, a number of us as Black men, our internal worlds, they are not safe. So how can I give you safety that I don't even know for myself? Right? How can Black men create safer spaces for Black men? First of all, you have to understand how to create a safe space for yourself. How do you talk to yourself?
Facts.
What are the thoughts that fill your brain when you are just sitting still? You have to learn how to rearrange that mass. You have to learn how to sit with yourself. You have to understand how it is to identify, challenge, and reconstruct these internalized negative narratives that came from you being told within your life as a Black man that you probably wasn't gonna be shit, you not gonna be shit, you just like your daddy because he left, he ain't shit. How have all of those things impacted you? How have all of these things affected you? How have they impacted your self-concept? How have they impacted your self-esteem? How is consistently seeing yourself in media be killed, be a thug, be all of these different things? How has it felt to be a Black man in these spaces where you have to consistently move, run, perform, do labor in order to prove your worth? What does it feel like? A lot of y'all won't stop moving because you're afraid that if you stop moving, you're going to be crushed under that weight.
We're gonna take a break on it. If you didn't notice, we will let's pause. Let's let the brothers ponder on that. And I know I'm joking, but I think it's important for us when we have these conversations, when you ask these questions, these rhetorical questions, or you pose these phrases in these different parts of the conversation, that people actually listen and actually think about it. So for those of you guys that have been listening up until this point, you heard that last piece, rewind, listen to it again, and pause and actually think about it. Because this is part of doing the work. And not only think about it, but actually journal your thoughts. Don't just think about it and then leave and do whatever you wanted to do before, whatever you're doing before. Think about it, think about your answers to it, and then write your answers down, because this is part of doing the work. And the reason why I'm saying that is because part of my journey was I had to take a break from dating. I had to take a break from talking about my issues with some of my friends and just really spend time in solitude. Because once I spent that time in solitude and I actually spent time really just asking myself question after question, who am I? Why do these things bother me? Why do I feel like I'm ugly? Why am I so hurt that this happened? Why am I annoyed at this? Why am I frustrated at this? Why does this trigger me? I started to uncover so much. And then the emotions started to flood. I remember this one time, I always tell this story because this is a real story that happened. Because I was dating Naima at the time. I told Naima, I said, yo, I'm terrified, but we need to take a break. Not because anything is wrong, but I have to spend time in solitude right now. Because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to identify what issues I currently have that could be potentially damaging to this relationship. But I'm terrified because I desperately feel like I'm not going to be able to find love. So if I leave or if we go on this break, I'm terrified that you'll leave me. I didn't even have the language to express this. I'm saying this to you now. I didn't have the language to express this to her. I just tell her I'm terrified. We need to take a break. Bro, I think it was the next day or maybe the day after. Once I realized like, okay, this is happening. This is what I'm doing. I'm now taking a break. Me and Naima are technically in a relationship, but not really in a relationship. And she does have the opportunity to leave. Broke down in the kitchen, brother. When I say broke down, I am sobbing uncontrollably. Never in my life have I sobbed like that. Ever. Uncontrollable sobbing. I'm just trying to get something to eat, bro. I'm in the kitchen. I'm not even thinking about the situation. It just flashed in my head. Sobbing, bro, in the kitchen. I'm like, bro, what is... You seen that Funk Flex meme when... Literally me in the kitchen. Like, it's like my subconscious, though. It's like, because consciously I'm sobbing. But like, it felt like an out-of-body experience. I'm looking at myself like, bro, what are you doing? Put it together. But I can't. And that's when I realized this break was not only necessary, but the revelations that I'm going to have from this are really going to change me as a man. That's why I push healing so much, because we don't understand that when we actually take the time to really just chill and actually assess, we are able to uncover a lot of the patterns and behaviors that we don't actually like, that we are just doing because subconsciously they've been ingrained in us.
Yes, sir.
I didn't like the fact that I couldn't be to myself. Because I'm actually a person that I like. Now that I've going through the process, I like my solitude, bro. I actually don't like being around people like that. So why do you always want to be in a relationship? Those two things are conflicting. I never stopped to think about that. You get what I'm saying? So like, there's some things that we engage in that are detrimental to the things that we actually enjoy, but we do them because subconsciously, that's a negative learned behavior that we've gotten from something that we haven't spent enough time sitting to understand why we even engage in that behavior in the first place.
A number of men perform compulsive masculinity because it's a form of people pleasing.
Talk about that, bro.
We genuinely don't see it that way. But once again, if we were to ask the question, who are you outside of what it is that you do? Who are you outside of what it is that you do? If there was no audience to evaluate your performance of masculinity, would you still perform it? Right? So people pleasing as a behavior is rooted in a fear of abandonment. It is rooted in neglect trauma. It is rooted in a perception of low self-worth. And it's crazy because somebody on Threads, and whenever stuff like this happen, I feel like people end up blocking me because I think that's what happened. So somebody posted on Threads, it was like, you know who know their worth? Men. I was like, as a therapist, I can comfortably tell you that men do not know their worth.
That's a fact.
Men do not know their worth, right? That is the reason why, you know how men will say, oh, we'll stay in an unhappy relationship longer than most women because you don't know your worth.
Facts.
Once again, I've said it before, there are a number of men and women who have conflated masculinity with the ability to withstand harm, neglect, and trauma without saying anything. You believe that your worth is proving how much harm you can withstand. You believe that your worth is based upon how many battle scars you can take and then go back and once again show somebody how strong of a man that you are. Right? All of those behaviors are based upon not wanting to be identified as not useful, as not wanting to be identified as not having a purpose. not wanting to be identified as somebody who's, once again, perpetually deficient.
And let me add to that too. On the flip side of that, some of us don't know our worth, so much so that we will endure whatever because we believe that we are so worthless that whatever it is that we're enduring is all that we're worthy of in the first place. Mm-hmm. Perfect example, my relationship before Naima. I'm in this relationship. It's a long distance relationship. And there are certain things in a relationship that I do not like. Mm-hmm. In fact, my mom tells me not to say hate, but I hated it. Mm-hmm. I'm like, man, like I can't even, like I get off work and I want to just play some games real quick just to get a reprieve. Shorty does not want to get me. I can't get off the phone with her. We in a long distance relationship. I can't even get off the phone with you after I got off of work to just get a quick reprieve and call you back. That's a problem. I mean, a problem to the point where we argue. Can you believe that? No, because you told me you don't do anything at work all day anyway. So why you got to get a reprieve? Bro, this is literally, you don't do anything at work anyway. So what do you need a reprieve from? I'm performing at work. Regardless of if I'm doing anything or not, I'm performing in front of these white people. Mm-hmm. That performance in itself is exhausting. Mm-hmm. I can't even explain that to you. That's a problem. Yeah, and while I'm having these issues, Odi, while I know that this is exhausting, I'm exhausted at work, I'm exhausted when I'm coming home, I am still staying in the relationship because my self-worth is so low that I don't believe that I'm worthy of anything more than that.
I was having a conversation with my supervisor literally last night. He said, you need to stop calling me your supervisor. Like, that's how I bet you. My man's, right? He's the owner, he's the CEO of Full Being Services. Shout out Full Being Services. Shout out Chris Brown. But yeah, come see us in Philly if you haven't. But yeah, we got virtual and we got in-person sessions. You feel me?
Tap in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But nah, he was like, there are a number of men who are not used to being affirmed. We are not used to having those things given to us. And for somebody who is used to nothing, breadcrumbs are sustenance. Mm-hmm. For somebody who is used to nothing, breadcrumbs are sustenance.
And starving is seen as being full.
Yep.
You know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bro, I was starving in that relationship, bro. Starving. But I kept telling myself, man, you good. This is what a relationship supposed to be. I mean, y'all gonna argue. That's normal. Every day about the same things. Mm-hmm. You don't even want to talk about certain topics because you know it's going to be an argument. That ain't a relationship. That's prison. Mm-hmm. If I can't bring up a certain topic because I know we going to argue about it, what kind of relationship is that? I'm supposed to be able to bring up anything. You're supposed to be my mans. I could bring up anything and we could come to some type of resolution. Mm-hmm. Anything, we can come to some type of resolution. Mm-hmm. Not saying that you're going to automatically come to my side or I'm going to automatically come to your side, but there will be some type of resolution where we both are like, all right, cool. That can be squared away. That's filed away. We're good. But if I got a list of things that I know, if I talk to you about this right here, we are never going to get to any type of middle ground, resolution, compromise. That is a problem, bro. Mm-hmm. That's a problem. And there's so many people that's in relationships. They know if they open that closet and start talking about this specific thing, all hell break loose. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to stay in this because I'm comfortable and I don't feel like I'm worthy of anything more than this.
Yes, sir.
And I'm terrified of the idea of being without this person, even though I know this person is also robbing me of my peace. Mm-hmm. But because I don't know how to create peace for myself, I'd rather be in this situation where I know that there is no peace that exists than be in a situation where I'm trying to manufacture it for myself without this person.
Yes, sir.
Because I'd rather deal with the breadcrumbs that I'm getting than have to even think about the starving of being alone.
Either that or putting the ingredients together to bake my own loaf of bread.
Right.
And that's the reason why I said it's a people-pleasing behavior. Mm-hmm. Because what you are doing is you are satiating that part of yourself that says, my worth is determined by the amount. My worth as a man is determined by the amount of, once again, abuse, neglect, and harm that I can withstand, because we are taught as men that these are the things that make you a man. These are the things that harden you. These are the things that, all of these different things, right? But you breaking yourself in order to make somebody else whole is always going to put you in a state of brokenness.
Right.
That's just what that is, right? But because so many men expect themselves to be broken. So many men expect themselves to be broken down. So many men are used to being broken down that they only know, or they only believe that the reason why I should fix myself is for somebody else. Right? I should only do this for the applause. I should only do this for it is a people-pleasing behavior. You are doing and you are engaging in this performance compulsively because you believe that this is the only way that you are going to get affirmed. You believe that this is the only way that you are going to get acknowledged. You believe that this is the only way that you are going to be seen. You have to engage in this performance, because if I do not, then I'm essentially going to be worthless, invisible, and I'm not going to have any value.
And then it's even worse when you have a partner that perpetuates those stereotypes.
Yes. And once again, this is the reason why when you ask the question, what can black women do in order to assist black men? That's the reason why the first question or the first response was, check your internalized patriarchy. Right? Because there are a number of women who do not believe, that men can have just as much as an emotional need as them. And if they do, then they're not actual men.
Yeah.
Whole time, there's no data that indicates that men have less of an emotional need than women. We've just been socialized to not ask for much, or to not. Men say that they're simple, not because they're actually simple, but I firmly believe that a number of men say that they're simple because they are afraid that if they ask for what it is they actually want, they're going to be either judged, embarrassed, or they're not going to receive it.
Right. Man, you know what I always think about when I think about that? When you talk about the simple thing, I always think about this clip that I seen on social media that where the guy was talking about men don't need love, men only need respect. Men only need respect. Bro, I'm so tired of the idea that because I'm a man, I don't need the same type of responses that every other human being gets.
Yes.
Because I'm a man, it's okay for me to be dehumanized. Because that's the nature of my role, is to be dehumanized.
Especially black men.
Especially as a black man. I'm so tired of that. I get tired of hearing the same old, like, yo, I'm a man, so I don't need that. Just respect me. That's a damn lie.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead, please.
How else do you obtain respect without love?
Bro, and they'll tell you that respect is when I come home, you gotta acknowledge this and do this, and you gotta make sure that the children know that I'm the head of the household and X, Y, and Z and da-da-da. But for me personally, like you said, love is a big part of that. It's a huge part of that. And I think a lot of times, like, it's not even respect that we're looking for. We are looking for the love.
A number of men do not care the route by which that respect comes. So if that respect does not come through love, I will extort it from you through fear. If it does not come through love, I will extort it from you through fear. And that is when we begin talking about the context of domination style patriarchy, right? I was having a conversation with somebody a couple of years ago, and I was talking about the passage in the Bible where it says you should fear God. And I've always disagreed with that passage because I'm like, why would I have to fear something that I'm supposed to love? And somebody said to me, they was like, no, when it says fear, you're supposed to respect. And I was like, that makes so much sense as to how many men lead their relationships. If you do not respect me, I will literally place the fear of God in you so that you will respect me. But is that really respect or is that just coercion? Do I respect you or do I fear you? Do I respect you or am I just doing what it takes to not be harmed? Right? So even if you come in this house, oh, you gotta do this, that, and the third. Okay. I've asked this question to women mostly, but I also pose this question to men. If your needs do not get met, how do you respond to your needs not being met? Do you become emotionally dysregulated? Do you become violent? And violence does not have to be just physical. Violence can be emotional. Violence can be psychological, right? You stonewalling, you getting silent, all of these things are forms of violence. Right? And once again, a number of men have a difficulty perceiving that because we have been socialized to believe that violence is only physical, and it is not. Right? So you storming through the house, you slamming doors, X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C. If this woman came in this house and did the same exact thing that you're doing, how would you respond? Right? We do need love. We definitely need love. But a number of men, once again, that respect looks like obedience, and that obedience looks like you'll do what it is that I say. And if you will do what it is that I say, I don't have to explain to you why I want you to do it. But the reason why you want them to do it is because it nurtures and fulfills a part of you that you believe that they should not be applauded for. But the reality of the situation is that you can ask for those same things in love. But here's the kicker. Respect that comes through fear does not require reciprocation.
Explain that.
If I expect you to clean, but when then you ask me to clean, I become irate, I become dysregulated, I withdraw, I weaponize my incompetence, it creates a feeling of disorientation. It can create a feeling of dis-ease. It creates dysregulation. It creates stress. I don't have to reciprocate. If I can dysregulate you enough to the point where you no longer ask me for these things, it doesn't even necessarily have to be fear. It can be anxiety, right? Respect that comes through fear, anxiety, or dysregulation does not require reciprocation. It is a form of subjugation. It is a form of subordination, right? So if I can say to you, I pay all the bills in this house, and if you don't do what it is that I say, then I'll just stop paying all the bills, that's fear.
It's financial violence.
It's financial violence, right? But if we are operating in the space of love, the reason why you are paying all of the bills, or the reason why you are doing all of these things, is because that's what you all agreed upon. That was the conversation that you all had. That was the negotiation of this contract, right? But once again, respect that comes through fear does not require reciprocation. And a number of men would prefer to have the respect through fear or through dysregulation because it will not require them to reciprocate what it is that they're asking for.
You've also said something where you said people pleasing is a form of manipulation.
Yes, it is.
Explain that.
So we tend to think of manipulation as inherently malicious the same way we tend to think of selfishness as inherently malicious. Manipulation is simply your ability to skillfully engage in the environment in such a way where you get your needs met.
Okay.
Right? So people pleasing is a form of manipulation because you are not being forthcoming, or you are not being transparent in what it is or why it is that you're doing what it is that you're doing. So for example, if I'm saying yes to you when I really want to say no, I am being manipulative. I am placing you in a space of false security to believe that I actually want to do these things. And I know on the back end of this, I'm going to have some type of resentment or anger towards you because you did not consider what it is that I needed before you asked me to do what it is that I did. So now I'm going to say yes to this thing, but I'm going to turn around and punish you for not considering what it is that I needed, right? Or if I'm only doing what it is that you say, because I want you to stay around. I'm not communicating, once again, I'm not communicating or being transparent with you. I am leading you into a false sense of communication, or I'm leading you into a false sense of understanding of the situation in order for you to believe that this is the reality of the situation in order for you to stay around. Right? So, baby, what's wrong? Nothing. A number of people don't think about that as a form of people pleasing, but it is. I don't want to cause you any stress. I don't want to make you feel, I don't want to it's a form of people pleasing. But after that conversation, if you then turn around and hit somebody with, I just think it's funny how you, once again, at the outset of this conversation, you've gaslit this person. If I can clearly see that there is something bothering you, if I can clearly see, I call it drive-by gaslighting. If I can clearly see that there's something bothering you, if your nonverbal communication is saying to me that there's something bothering you, and I ask you, what's wrong? And you tell me nothing, you are, in that moment in time, you are intentionally misleading me and creating an environment in which I am questioning the reality that I'm seeing so that you can maintain the power in the situation, right? And once again, it's difficult to think of it like that, but if we were to then extend this part of the conversation to say, now that I'm relaxed, now that I'm calm, now that I'm regulated, you then come back and you say, I just think it's funny how now you've dysregulated me. Now you've thrown me into a state of heightened awareness. Now you've, once again, lit up my central nervous system. You've engaged in a form of people pleasing because what you don't want to do is you don't want to create a conflict. But in that desire to not create a conflict, you've engaged in manipulative behavior because you are genuinely engaging in such a way where you are not communicating transparently. You are attempting to obtain an outcome without being completely forthcoming, and you are attempting to obtain or get to an outcome that is ultimately for your benefit. Because it's not that you don't want to engage in conflict, it's that you don't regulate the emotions that conflict brings you well. So ultimately, it's about you. Right? And once again, these are not things that people do with malicious intent. What usually happens is that people learn how to manipulate based upon being in environments where their needs were not met. Or if they were direct or transparent with their needs, they were taught that their needs were either invalid, not valuable, or not important enough for those needs to be met. So if I'm in an environment where I'm used to my needs being withheld, if I'm in an environment where I'm used to being shamed or guilted, or if I'm in an environment where I'm used to having to regulate others or having to serve others in order to identify, or having to perform for others in order to identify my value, I will learn how to subvert different things in order to get my needs met. Right? So it's almost like these games that we play between men and women, it's because men and women have a storied history of not being honest and transparent with another to a point where, let me give you a perfect example. We're quite manipulative in dating.
Okay.
We're quite manipulative in dating. We are manipulative in dating because how it is that we present is not always who it is that we are as a person. We are presenting the best version of ourselves to you because we want to attract you.
Right.
That's a form of manipulation. It may be benign manipulation, but it's manipulation altogether. Right? We are not being our most honest selves, or we are not being our most transparent selves, because the idea, the outcome, the desired outcome is to attract the mate. You got to put your best foot forward. You got to do this, and that, and third. You have to engage in a series of performances in order to prove or show your worth. But if none of these things are of my true person, then I'm being manipulative.
Staying on the topic of relationships, bro. What do you feel like is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves as black men when it comes to being in relationships? Whether it could be dating, or just relationships in general.
One of the biggest lies that we tell to ourselves as black men in relationships is that we are fine when we're not. That's one of the biggest lies. I'm cool, I'm straight, I'm good. Meanwhile, you toe up. Meanwhile, you tired. Meanwhile, you need something. Meanwhile, I'm cool, I'm straight, I'm good. No, you're not. You're not. Something's bothering you.
So how do we, as a society, community, culture, how do we identify when something's going on with black men that we love and we care about when we hear, I'm cool, I'm good all the time? Like how do we know? Is there a way to know?
That's placing the responsibility and the emotional labor on the society instead of on the black man. You have to be willing to say that I am not okay. You have to be willing to be some sort of transparent. You have to be willing to take that risk. The analogy that I usually use for this is that I cannot give you care unless you consent to it.
Okay.
Whether it be medical, whether it be psychological, whether it be, I cannot give you care unless you consent to it. I cannot force care on you because I don't know what you need. If you consistently saying, I'm cool, I'm straight, you good, bro? Yeah, I'm chilling. Right? Going back to, I think it was the first episode that we did. You was talking about your homeboy. He was telling you all the stuff off camera. And then y'all got on camera. You asked him, bro, you good? He's like, yeah, I'm straight. What? What? You liar. You're a liar. You are a liar, bro. You're a liar. You're lying, right? You're a liar. You're lying, right? And once again, that is the biggest lie that we as black men tell each other, others in relationship.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you are planning an event or you are part of your organization's black employee group and you are interested in having dope black mental health professionals or myself come in and do a speaking engagement or a workshop or a keynote address or a panel, please click the link in our bio on Instagram or TikTok, scroll down and click book us for speaking and brand deals and fill out the form available on our website. Once you fill out the form, one of our team members will get back to you about how we can collaborate and create something dope for your organization. This is an unparalleled opportunity. We are currently the largest black men's mental health platform, and we have a few slots available for our calendar year, and we would love to partner with you to create something dope for your organization if it makes sense for both parties, right? So go to the link in our bio, scroll down, click book us for speaking and brand deals, and fill out that form. If you're not on Instagram, the link should be linked in our description of this episode. And it is also on our website. If you go to expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. That's expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. If you are looking for a therapist, a black therapist, and you've had a hard time finding one, you jump from therapist to therapist, or you just don't know how to find a therapist, we are teaching a free webinar. It's completely free, taking you from not knowing how to find a therapist, not knowing where to search for therapists, struggling with finding good therapists for you, not knowing what to look for in therapists, teaching you all of those different things, and also giving you the opportunity at the end of the webinar to be connected with one of our safe haven healers who are black mental health professionals so that you do not have to go through the struggles of finding a black therapist alone anymore, right? So if you're interested in that, you want to get connected with a black mental health professional at the end of the webinar, or you just want to learn how to find a black therapist, by yourself. You can sign up for the free webinar. It's linked in our bio on Instagram and TikTok. You just click that free webinar link. Once you click the link in our bio and fill out the form. You can also find it on our website at expressyourselfblackman.com/links and fill out the form there for our next webinar session. If you're not interested in any of that, right, but you know someone that may be interested in it, all we ask is that you please share it. If you want some of the merch that we show on the platform all the time, that we're wearing on the platform all the time, you can shop it at shop.expressyourselfblackman.com. And once again, we just want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you so much for supporting us. Please, if you are on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, comment. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, please leave a review. It helps us out greatly. Thank you so much for your support. We're wishing you nothing but the best and sending you and your family and your loved ones love and light. Peace.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.